It is Wednesday, and that means it is house tour day. Before we get started, just a few reminders of some ongoing things. First of all, there is a maintenance due today. Usual time, 4 a.m. PDT, 1 p.m. CET. It should only last about half an hour, I think, is what the notice said. So it'll be a short one, so that's not too bad. Also, there is currently a double XP explosion event ongoing. I think the last day is tomorrow or maybe Friday. I didn't check the dates, but I think it's still a couple of days to go on that. So if you have some alts that you want to get up, especially for those that you want access to certain reputation vendors in different zones, this is the opportunity to get those opened up to your alts so that you don't have to completely rely on your main to collect everything, especially since some of those reputation things are bind on pickup and you are literally required to hunt certain things down for specific characters that you can't get it from your main. And last but not least, there are still the Starfall event thingies going on. You have a couple of days to collect your second week rewards, which includes the jukebox decor and, of course, the Starfall Cupcake Year 4. We've seen a few people have been tweeting out some images of that, and I think Desmoose put out a video showcasing some of the music that you can hear from the jukebox itself. And then next week, week 3, will be the third week rewards, which will be an anniversary dower disguise and a clothing piece, a hood. Also, there's going to be the residential renovation event for that week, which will be showcasing the Dungeon Chase rewards, which includes the Osun, the Taurine, and the Protostar reward sets. So if you're looking for some of those goodies to collect and outfit your gorgeous plots, then that will be your opportunity. A reminder, the renovation event is a month. It's a monthly thing. It's every month it changes out. So it's like they have 3 sets of decor rewards possible. I've heard hints that they're going to add the chromium bits to it as well. So maybe it'll be a rotation of 4 sets. But if a certain type of decor, if you're looking for that and you missed a chance to get it one time, just wait a few months and it'll roll back around. They just rotate out the loot for that event each month. And the event itself is a week long, so plenty of chance to stock up on some of those extra items that you're looking for. I think that's it. I can't think of anything else. Anywho, so yeah, we are on Jabbit this week, Jabbit EU. A couple places that have been on my queue list for quite some time, and they haven't really changed too much since the last time I've been out checking things. I will say I'm tempted to just clear my queue list and just start fresh because I've been coming up against tons of places that I just can't seem to get access to. Either it tells me the player doesn't exist, which I know there was a kind of an issue with that they actually do exist, but for one reason or another, it just keeps saying that they're not. Others have emptied their plots out. Some have gone private, and others have joined communities. So I really need to clean up my lists so I can tell better where we're at. It's going to take some time though, because I was doing some house browsing this morning and I was having a lot of trouble. I kept getting booted out of housing. It'd either boot me back to the city or it would completely boot me out of it, put me back onto the character screen. So I don't know what's up with that deal. So it was really making things go a lot slower than usual. And of course, we have the long loading screens to deal with, which I think is in part due to the community systems inclusion. So I don't know. It's going to be a long while, I think, before I get things in order. And of course, every time I come across a community, there's a lot of them that they're partial done, but there's like one or two sections that aren't quite ready, or it looks done all up on top, but then you start visiting the interiors, and some of them are still a lot in progress. So there's a lot of renovation going on that's causing things to kind of bog down. And it's not that, you know, I'm complaining or anything. I think it's great that those that have embraced the community aspect of the housing have tackled it, but it's a trick to try and go through and check every single one and then check all the interiors and just make sure it's all up to snuff before I try to stream it. So it's just a slow process, and we'll get through it. But yeah, I think I'm going to have to just scrap my list and start from scratch on that, because it's just getting, I've got like question marks and scratch throughs, and it's just a mess right now. So that aside, we do have a couple of plots for your perusal today. The first one is called Starthorn. Its builder's name is Alio Starthorn. I think that's right. It's Aillio Starthorn. The name sounds familiar, but I think I might be getting it confused with Starborn, which it may be still the same person. They just switched it a little bit. Yeah. You can see that they've kind of raised the entrance here quite a bit. You don't even see, usually we see the little ring and the little teleport bit visible still, but they raised it up quite a bit to cover it up. I assume it's a gray stone that they've managed to squeeze in there with some desert plants and such. When you do zone in here, you're basically, your character's kind of like buried up to their waist. You just have to pop up, do a little jump, and you'll be out, and you won't be stuck or anything. Hey TW, yeah, that would be helpful. I'd appreciate that. I probably have some of them on my list already, but since I've been kind of putting off visiting communities, I'm expecting that list to get a little bit longer before I'm ready to tackle a big tour like that again. But yeah, any suggestions you got, more than welcome. Excuse me. Again, yes, I'm still coughing. It's way, 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 way better than it was, but I still have a little bit of it come scratching back out. And of course, the talking and stuff aggravates it. So apologies if I start hacking up. I've got my water and everything ready, so hopefully it's not too bad. Anyway, I picked this one because it's kind of like a Draken Village thing going on. We don't see too many of those. I've shown a few in the past that are pretty elaborate and nifty looking, but I kind of like this one. I think there's a lot of ideas that people can kind of play with, and not necessarily have to stick to a Draken theme per se. Maybe they're just looking for kind of a canyon type of deal, like in a westerny sort of thing, and figuring out how to make it so people can get up into different areas. So we're just going to take a look around on the exterior first, and then we'll go on into the interior. So here we have a little corral, presumably for weapons practice. We've got like the little weapon racks. Now we actually have some weapon rack decor. It's Osun themed, but I like how they've set up their own. It's basically just using a couple of 2x4s, a couple of pillars, and then sticking the weapons in. Now notice they've done it two different ways here. They've got this one where the swords are kind of like slotted in, and then over here they've got them kind of more like hung on here. And they've even made, I think it's what, a spell slinger thing? Are those the ones that use the little twirly gigs? Anyway, they fashioned one themselves. It's using a plate, spoons, and knives, which I thought was kind of clever. But they've just turned the 2x4s, instead of it having it flat, they turned it the other way, and it makes it look like where you would hang um, axes and maces and stuff like that. I thought that was fun. Again, we have a lot of folks cleverly coming up with ways to um, fashion weaponry. We've seen a lot of guns and blinged out swords, and I'm gonna go this way first, I think. Now you'll notice that they do have some raised areas. Some of it I think is just oversized stones, and others are like parts of the Protostar Insta Hills. But like you'll see, I'm pretty sure this part here was just the stone. I don't know if they're actually using any like upside down snowy hills or anything. You'll be able to tell that depending on the poofs of the stuff coming out. Not sure what this little bridge is for, other than maybe being able to walk on these roots. Oh, excuse me. I just had a sneezing fit right before I started up the stream, so I'm a little stuffed up now. There's like a, I don't know, a little witch doctor cavey thing. Notice there really isn't like any NPCs and stuff. Some like to really go all out with the NPCs and everything, but I like these places that kind of leave it up to the visitors. It's especially helpful for RP troops that are looking for new locations to have a little outing. I know a lot of them build up their own, but it's always fun to kind of try out and use other people's places. Generally speaking, if it's public, it's open game for whoever decides to use it. But if you really want to be polite, you can always ask the owner for permission, you know, just in case maybe they're using it as well and you don't have clash of events. Pardon me. I like these little just, and they're just sitting out there. Again, it encourages people to really explore a plot if there's a lot of little nooks and crannies that they can find things in. Now, a lot of the bones and things, they come from the Arctera area. But like this here, the spine with the flowers on it, I think that comes from Mulgrave. Some of the rare bosses there have a tendency to drop them, among other things. Strange little throny room area. Little drum, I guess, to signal the meeting or something. I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to get to this over here or elsewhere. Here's a little overlook. It's just one of the Orin landing pads sunk in there. I think I'm supposed to go this way. It's like they've actually put little 2x4s on the wood here to let you know. You can see that this tree root thingy is hollow, so it makes it weird to, the camera goes off inside it. This way. I like this little hut here. It almost reminds me of some of the fishing villages in, I hate to bring in another game, but World of Warcraft, in like the place where the walrus people are. Can't even think of what the names are. But that's what it reminds me of. It's just using the chua netting to make this little hut. But I can really imagine this being at like a little fishing village type of thing. Have some little fish racks and poles and stuff. Obviously, it doesn't lend so much protection from the weather because it's all, holy and everything, but that's what comes to mind. Another little platform overlook type thing. It's all like interconnected here. You could maybe role play some folks doing like some uh, outdoor market kind of thing. Notice this little strange stairway. It's one giant 2x4, and then they place a bunch of little ones. Oh, feels like it needs to be popped. Here's a great overview. You want to take a screenshot kind of thing of the village itself. I don't know if this part here is actually part of the prefab home or if they've added that in as some kind of a weird, like, pimped it out thing. I'm not very familiar with a lot of the house extras. For whatever reason, I never really played around with that too much. So, kind of like the sky remodels and stuff, and even the music in part, I just never really changed those up too much. I always left it just the basic. Notice they're using the older waterfalls. Like I said, this is kind of a plot that's been around for a while. Most of them that started out with the original waterfalls didn't always upgrade to the newer ones because, as I said before, it was kind of an issue if they had the rocks in a certain place and then they tried to input the new, they'd have to do a lot of remodeling to get it to fit properly, so it was easier just to leave it be. Okay. Just going to check and make sure we saw everything over here. Oops, I just fell right down, didn't I? Back up. Yep, here's another little tooting the horn kind of thing. Again, maybe it's to call a meeting to order or some kind of celebration thing. Maybe somebody gets promoted and they want to have a little ceremony, and this is where they would host it. I don't think there were any hidden like caves around here, but since they're using the greystones, it would be a great little thing to sneak in for those to use the taurine wooden, not the wooden stone doors. They really blend in pretty nicely with those. A lot of times I find myself mousing over walls like this just to make sure I'm not missing any. A regular little tent decked out with the comforts of home. Just little keepsakes that people have collected that they want to take with them. Take with them. I noticed the hay bale. There's several different ones. There's the square one, which I think, if I remember right, comes from some PvP stuff. Or it's a world drop. I can't remember. There's also the rounded one. There's the hay pile, and then there's the stack of, it's like in a barrel, and it's a stack of hay. I think the stack comes with the LOP decor pack, which includes this Kurg. Just FYI. Now this one, it's another kind of little tent-like thing. They're using a variety of bits. You've got the drake and shelves that act as kind of like a balcony railing kind of thing. Chosen to have it on the fur, not the fur, the leather bits, the skin on the inside rather than the out, so it kind of looks like it's got railing, and then you just tacked on the stuff. And then using the rugs and such for the walls, and then the awnings, the different types of awnings for the roof. Some of it is, I think, spikes from the awnings themselves, but then they've added in some of the thorny logs for extra supports. Could put a piece of meat or something on here to make it look like they're roasting it. Excuse me. Again, they're kind of just pretending as if they're using some of the environment and then tacking on. It's almost like a ramshackle village that you would expect like at a pirate cove or something, where they just kind of used broken bits of their ship and fashioned some little huts and houses. And it's kind of the same in this regard. They're just using more bones and animal skins and such. And here we have a little bridge, and it's just a giant, I think it's a metal edged 2x4 kind of blocky thing. It's oversized, and then with the fencing lined across it. And then it's like someone's little bed, and it's basically a mattress that's been inserted into one of the water troughs, and the water trough is just sunk down, so you don't see the rounded part with the little leg bits on it. I thought this was a cute idea. I figured someone else could fashion a variety of things out of it, including if they use a smaller version and leave the rounded part visible, and maybe give us some posts and a little, like a mobile hanging above it. That'd be a nice little rocker bed for a baby, you know, for those that have little children's rooms and stuff. Add a few pillows, maybe a towel or something to fashion a blanket or something partway. It doesn't have to be a towel though. You could probably use a book that's been inset, or a couple of books, or several books to make a pattern. Or, you know, a sleeping bag. A lot of people like to use that because it looks, you know, plush and cushiony anyway. There's any number of stuff that you can go through with that. Oh, I feel a really bad coughing fit coming on. Super scratchy. This one is using a combination of decking pieces, dividers. I think it's the triple divider in part, and then the rest are the singles, and they just added those in to extend it around. Let's see. Yep. By the way, I've been looking last week, I think it was, someone asked about boxing gym fab kit, and the places that I recall having them don't have them anymore. So I'm still on the hunt for that. Um, there used to be a fab kit directory, but I checked it and they didn't have any listings for that particular one, unfortunately. Um, so I'll keep an eye out, and if I happen to find uh, one or a few, I will be sure and mention it. I don't know if this is supposed to be like a remnants of a garden or what. As you see the gourds and the pumpkins and stuff down here, but not quite sure. Excuse me. Another little cavey spot. And then they've managed to incorporate a fab kit here. I think this is the hot springs one. If you're looking for water types, there's the kiddie pool. We've seen a lot of people build around it and make it where you just see the pool part. Made some nice jacuzzi looking type builds, to just completely change the look of it. This is the hot springs one with the steam and stuff coming up. And there's also there's a pool with like the two fish in it, the little koi fish or something. I think there's another one, but I can't think of what it was specifically. But I know there's a few water ones. But as you can see, these cosmetic fab kits really lend themselves to your own interpretation of the extras that you want to toss in or how you want to box it in. Some have put this like inside a cave area, or they actually build like little changing rooms and little bridges and stuff. Sometimes they'll put two of them side by side and have like a men's side and a women's side. It's all kinds of little things. And this one's just put in some pillows on one of the little tarp covers, added some candles, and probably some of these flowers and grasses and stuff to kind of dress it up and help it blend into this desert scene. And they've got this little raised area for those that want to chillax after a soak, I guess. And I think that's all of the exterior. Just check over here real quick. See a log that allows you to go up. I want to make sure I'm not missing something. And they got like a pile of stumps and trees and stuff. I suspect maybe they were looking, notice we're a little high. There's the barrier here, but the honeycomb barrier is not showing up. The higher, at a certain point it reaches, it just stops. It's more visible down below. But it looks like maybe they were trying to fashion, yeah, it either started or was planning to make a little, I don't know, witch's hut or something up here out of the tree trunks and goodies. It's one of the spooky stumps, I think, from the Shades Eve event. and the barren trees and then the dead logs. Of course, above the hot springs is this little outlook here. Again, we've turned the water trough into like a little bench, just inserting some pillows into it. You hear some weird noises. My cats are, I don't know what they're doing, playing hide and seek or something from each other. They keep bouncing around the stairs and stuff, and it's really distracting. Now, I'm pretty sure the entranceway here is custom, but we want to take a look at this little spot here. This is their little cookery, their barbecue area. They got a lot of the different raw meats, quite a few, and again, it's a good opportunity to use those corpses that you may have picked up during your adventures. They kind of drop quite up easily in some zones. The hanging meat is a good one. There's of course the raw steak and the chicken looking thing, and I think there's like the little water meat on a bone. I don't know what it's called. I call it like a ham hock or something, but I'm sure that's not the name that's used. And with the color shifting, maybe you can make one look like raw and the other one like cooked, possibly. But this little entranceway here, they're using, it looks like part of it is what it came with, and then the other is like just some of the gates and the chua netting again. And it kind of blends it in. So inside we have kind of a meeting hall where the head honcho sits with his sidekicks, and then the grunts are down here at the tables. Now the tables are just, I think, made of stone, and then they just added in different benches. But notice how they've doubled the shelves here. There's a bench, and then I think it's either another bench or a shelf underneath. I don't think that's part of it. I'm not sure why they decided to do that, if it's supposed to be like a rug underneath it or what. And then of course the Pell benches, they've got a set so you don't see the legs on those. So it's like squatty benches or something. The little raised area, those are the, I think it's the grimoire books. Got those big buckles on it. A lot of people like to use it for fireplace builds. I've used it for making furniture and among other things. The little metal parts are kind of nice, and the design on it as well is kind of interesting. The tables and this here, again, I said it was stones, but you can see it's multiples of them to kind of give it that nice squarish, squared look, I guess. And then I like how they've split off the areas. Usually this goes all the way down, but they've kind of blocked it off a little bit to make a different section. So up here, you have a little lounge area. The table is just multiple picnic tables smushed together to make a larger one. Excuse me. It's always fun to see how people split up their buildings, because so many of us just kind of go with the general layout and don't really think about splitting it up as much as you could. So you've got the one part right above, and then down here you have the kitchen area. So they've got like, instead of hanging or using like wood blocks or something, they've just got some uh, decking pieces slapped onto the wall and then got the knives and stuff stuck in there. Again, using the corpses for that they're butchering it up to cook for the stew or whatever. Most of the walls are the Draken fencing, I believe. The little sink cabinet area here, that's, I want to say it's uh, Draken cabinets. I think it's two of those. And I suspect it's the bottoms of them because I think these are maybe the feet, but I can't say for sure. And that's why you see these little green bits. But I don't recognize the wood pattern, so I imagine it's that probably that large cabinet thing. And then of course the water trough sunk down for the sink part. This here for another little sink thing. It looks like they've even got like a pipe attachment. That's just one of the rain gutters. And here's the refrigerated section. Notice they've kind of give indication of that by using the frozen water and the snow pile. It looks like something here. I'm not sure what they're using for that. If it's glass or it's not cobwebby looking. It looks more like either glass or something that's just inset a little bit to kind of give it a frosty look. And then of course the ice blocks, the core with the archways and stuff as well being used. No clumps. I think there's one of those Draken cabinets up here though. I can kind of confirm. Maybe it's in the other room. Yeah, I think it's this. See how you've got the green bits and those little horns, and it's the wood. That's what they're using in the kitchen cabinet. They just got it turned upside down and pushed down so you only see the top parts and sides. Now there's two versions of this, I believe. One is with the doors open, like this one, and then there's one that's got them closed. It's probably the closed one that they're using, I suspect, maybe. A lot of people like it for this little emblem on the front, especially for the closed one, because it looks Asian-y as well. Because they got a lot of the little, looks like a little serpent dragon kind of thing going on. So those looking for Asian tidbits like that cabinet. Okay, I think that's it for this plot. Again, I hope I've covered all of the little bits that this plot entails and not missed any. I like how they've got the water over here for the waterfall coming out of the Hugel's eye. A lot of people like to do that for like fountains and stuff. You don't normally see it in a large capacity like that, but there you go. Let's see, did I go up this way? Not sure. We'll go ahead and walk it just in case. Here we run right past the Hugel. Found another little outpost kind of thing. Again, lots of places to take screenshots to get different viewpoints of the plot. I always like. That's pretty creepy up there from a distance. Especially fun for those that are doing little tours or spotlights and they need some good screenshots of a plot. Helps be able to have a spot, at least one or two that you can get a good overall view. It's more difficult. This one's fairly open. There are some oversized trees, but not so many that it blocks everything. But like if you're doing like a review or a spotlight of a jungle kind of plot, those tend to be pretty tough on getting an overall view because there's just so many trees and other things covering stuff because they want that kind of like concealment and seeking out all the secrets and treasures and stuff. So, but it does make it difficult to kind of showcase it in an overall view. Okay, so that was Olio Starthorn's plots. Now we're going to try to visit another one here. Fingers crossed I don't get booted back out, which has happened several times this morning. I don't know what the deal is with that, but it's a little annoying. Especially when you get kicked back to the city or wherever you happen to be, wherever you ported from, it can like knock you straight back out. Okay, see how you kind of zone in? Like Barry, you just pop yourself up and you're fine. So again, another individual that's decided to cover up the entrance quite a bit. This one's chosen to make it look like, see how it disappears and you can see it. That's just due to the stone itself. It's hollow, so if your camera fits just right, it kind of blanks it out. It makes it especially uncomfortable to kind of walk through a cave that's created out of those particular stones because the camera just starts backing off. It makes it look more open than it actually is, and you have to kind of zoom your camera in, especially for someone like me that likes to run with it zoomed out. I get into trouble where I see all the goings on behind it when you're really not supposed to. If you keep your camera closer, you have a less likely chance of having that problem. But anyway, I like this part here. Now with the brown goop, I think it's supposed to be like it's a mud pile or puddle, and then they made it look like it's kind of streaming along and collecting here. Notice my character walks right through it. This particular item, I think the base of it has no collision. I think the plant part does. I can't really remember. But it's the upside down barnacle weed. It's the same thing that I use for like candies, for like chocolates and stuff, because I think that the pattern on the bottom kind of reminds me of like a piece of chocolate. But they're just using the red moon vent, a waterfall, several of the barnacle weeds stacked up and sized differently to make it look like a little raised pile. And then they've changed the winding river color to a murky brown to make it look like it's collecting over here where another vent is, where it's draining out. I just thought that was kind of funky and weird. They've also got a bit here to make it look like you have an escape hatch that you can go through with ladders. Obviously you can't get up to it, but they got the icicles hanging out, a couple of drops where maybe the icicles melted and refroze. Now I am going to show you this part. The owner probably doesn't really want you to see it, but they have it open, accessible, so I'm just going to kind of show how something like this, from here it looks like a, you know, a slummy sewer slash tunnel thingy, and it feels enclosed, and you're expecting like either a city or a spaceport kind of feel or whatever. And they have the little warning cones here, and they've got I like this, how it's been kind of set up so it's like a hinged door. It doesn't actually function like that. It's just another one of the red moon vents with a pillar, and then it opens to the tunnel. But it actually just poops you out to the bare plot. So again, it kind of shows you that whole enclosure is like right here. It looks cool from the interior, but the exterior really shows you how yucky it is. Yeah, I don't think the owner actually wants you to go wandering around, but I'm just showing you that it's one way, if you really want to make sure your visitors can't it's easy enough that they could have just closed that off by shutting the hole up with the vent rather than leaving it open. They probably just wanted to give them access, easy access to the fab kits that they have here, um, without having to constantly have to move an item around every time they visited their house. So it's just one of those things. But it is kind of interesting to see what it looks like from the outside. It looks like a mess, you know, like no rhyme or reason to what's poking out and everything. And you can even see the water falls, how they run underneath. It just looks really weird. But from the interior, it looks really nice. Maybe someday they will get back to building and will extend this little build out. But it's been this way for a really, 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 really long time. Um, so I just figured what's here is worth a look for those that want to be inspired by how to set up a little section like this. A lot of us don't necessarily opt to use the entire plot we're given. We kind of what I call like micro plot it. We just kind of like section it off and use just a portion. I do that with most of my alts because I don't know. One, I'm guilty of not being very good at the landscaping of the exterior, so I kind of cheat and just kind of make it as small as possible, so I have as little to have to decorate it as I can, and then I focus most of my efforts on the interior part. But this is just an example. So I like how they've got like these, I don't know, brackets up above. They've got like chains and pillars, and these parts here I think are dragon walls, and they're just like little sectioned off. And then they've got this little inset here. Again, it's dragon walls lining it with Oran floors, I think, to the side. And then there's like the sewage, murky, green, yucky water. They've got intermittent, I suspect is probably toxic barrels or the bubbling cauldrons to add the little stinky smoke tendrils coming up. They've also added different types of shrooms, especially the little poofy ones that gives that, you know, gaseous looking little bit, just kind of gross. Over here again, you got a little mud pile. This could be like a, you know, under city slums, and then above have this, you know, nice uh, living area, but underneath you got all this like garbage stuff. Now, presumably the levers would open this door, which is actually just a couple of metal tables stuck together. And of course, they've got the, I like how they've taken notice of pretending that there's the water flow is moving and pushing the trash up against the little grate here. This particular one, I think, is part of the, what's it called? The Marauders net shelf, I think. A lot of us like to use it for like soccer goals and such. You could also use the grated shelf, which is just all kind of thick rounded metal, or you could get the Osun grated netting looking stuff from the Arcterra area. It's really easy to get. I think you only have to be friendly with the Reputation vendor there to get it, if you don't want to have these extra little doodads there. But I think this is a nice touch. I think a lot of us would forget to include the trash piled up and hanging onto the net there. Let's see if I can get out of this goop. And I'm just going to backtrack a little bit. You can see, again, additions of little water drops and the garbage of cans and bottles and everything. If you're looking for other types of bottles, um, rather than just the wine bottles, there is the one that's on the top of the speaker. I've seen a lot of people use it. And for extra trash, there's like the tire that's on the bottom side of the car, like the garage themed coffee table. It's got the tire and the ice cooler. There's I think it's the tattered couch that has the cinder block on the bottom of it. I've seen a lot of people use it as part of again, you're hiding most of the item and just showing a piece of it. I think if there's any other, I mean, obviously you could use things like the ramshackle fence. It's got the busted hole in it and everything, but I'm trying to think of other pieces that have, can't think what else. But I know there's several items that kind of work that way. Got the overgrowth hanging off of some of it. Barking wire. Now there is a functioning door that looks like this vault door. This happens to be the granite version that is basically a stationary piece. It doesn't work like an actual door or a hatch or whatever. It works good for if you kind of want to fake it and you want to have like the door open, like it would have been all right to use that for where they use the red moon vent in the beginning. The only issue is, I guess, a lot of people don't like it because where you have this little bit popping out with the handle, it's replicated on the other side. So it's like two handled bits rather than it being like a concave side to it. They've made it just like a pillow version of it. It's just doubled on the other side. That's probably why fewer people use it as an actual open door kind of thing. I forget the name of the one that actually works, though. It actually has the motion of the wheel turning and it opens up. I don't recall what it is. Some kind of hatch thing. That's all I can think of. Notice the little mouse trap here. Just a 2x4 holding up the box. Some go to the trouble of like adding a little one of the chain traps or whatever. Here's that coffee table. Flip it over and you've got the wine cooler or the tire. And yes, we do have a regular tire, but this one's different looking. So it just adds some variety. If you're looking, looking to maybe make a garage, you want to have a stack of tires or something, this could be an extra just hanging on the wall or propped up somewhere. Let's see, I'm trying to see what anything really needs to be named here. Here's that tattered couch. You can see the cinder block on the side here. If you're looking to make a kind of a construction site or something, and you're looking for something other than just blocks of 2x4s and the brick pile and stuff, a little cinder block is a nice touch. Yeah, you might have to cleverly disguise it because there's a lot of bits you'd have to cover up, but I've seen it done and it looked good. So I don't think this grill actually comes with the smoke. I think that's just an addition, possibly a smoke decor, or it's maybe a campfire or something set underneath where you don't see the campfire itself, you just see the smoke coming out. Something along those lines. And the intestine little bagel here, You don't notice it typically because most often these are kind of small, but you can see the bloody goop hanging off of it. But I like using this one as a fish bait in a bucket. Flip it over and have it, and it looks like worms to me. You're looking for a fishing scene of some sort. And then again down here, they've got the waterfall and the winding rivers. They've recolored it to make it look like a, well, this looks almost yellow, but I think it's supposed to be like sewage draining on either side. If you happen to be wondering about the sky remodel that's given this like little dust mote stuff, I couldn't tell you. I don't know the names of most, if not all, of the sky remodels. I just recognize that there's some. But notice, even though this is an interior build here, the moats still pop in. It would be the same if it was a raining sky remodel, snowing, or some other weird, like little floaty symbol thingers or whatever. All of that would be on the interior. That's the only issue that a lot of custom house builders complain about when it comes to the sky remodel, because maybe they have like a creepy mansion and they like the rain and stormy look on the exterior, but they don't necessarily want it raining inside the house. But there's just currently, at least, no way that you can block off the environment bits from a custom built interior like this, because you're actually on the exterior. It would be nice if they, gave us some blocks of like, I don't know, a void zone or something where it would act like a collision for the sky remodel, and then you could place it over and then build whatever you want inside and fashion it that way. But I don't see that happening. I think that would be difficult to achieve. So this leads us down to the interior of the plot. I suspect it's a bunker house that they've built it on top of. It's just some archways, curved walls. I think it's Oran floors for the sides, possibly metal tables for the pathway down, just because of the shading of how it looks. That's what it reminds me of. The arrows come from the octopus neon sign. Just push it in enough just to show the triangle. If you flip it over and push it in, then you just see the octopus. They're kind of like side by side, squished. The faux door here is just a couple of suitcases. The handles here, I believe, are pillars, same way with the bordering of the door. It's Draken pillars for this part. And then I think this is the bottom of one of the, this is the minion chair. And then they've inserted the little spy cam thing on there to make it look like people are checking out before you're allowed in. Again, if you go up too close, the door doesn't necessarily show up. It disappears. I don't know why. It's just the way it works. And they've mirrored it on the interior. This is helpful, like if you did like I've done and some other people have done, where they had the upper part looking like it's an elevator. You want to mirror it downstairs as well to just kind of follow that theme through to make it feel more like you're not actually zoning in and out, even though you are. It's not always easy to do for some types of builds where, like, we've seen the one where you go down the well, but when you come out somewhere else. And it's just a tricky thing to try and the main thing you want to make sure is whether you're going in or out, you don't want to have your visitor pop up underneath something. So you have to be really careful about how you build around the entrance, whether it be a prefab home or one of the bunker houses or something. Test it with your character, both coming in and out, just to make sure that it's a smooth transition between, because I've been guilty of covering up the bunker house, and then when you pop out, you're like in the foundation of the house and you're stuck, and that forces your visitor to have to use the return to teleporter button, or just they get sick of it and leave your house entirely. So just consider that when you're doing those kind of cover-ups for the entrances and stuff. So in here we have a little bit of a bar with like a fighting ring. Again, we've seen a lot of different types of like fight clubs, boxing gyms, little arenas and stuff. And no matter how many we come across, they're always their own little twists and takes on how to set it up. This one's chosen to make the ring out of Draken pillars for the trim of it, Chua pillars for the corners of the ring, with hanging chains for the ropes. Now, if you don't like it that I can pass right through, since the hanging chains don't have any collision at all, you can get the Osun version. It actually has like these little hooks on each end, or I think it's on just one end. But they actually have collision, so you wouldn't be able to pass through like this. So it's something to consider. It just depends on how picky you are about it, and that kind of thing. If you want to make it a little more authentic where you can't pass through, you can do it that way. You could also use like the sparking wires. Maybe put the sparking part inside the post and have to put, like, depending on thickness, maybe you would have to put 4 of them to make the bar. So like 2 end to end with the sparking parts in here and 2 end to end here. So it'd be 4 pieces as opposed to the 2. But again, the sparking wires have no collision. They behave just like these particular chains do. You pass right through them. So it's disappointing for some, but it's just something to think about. As far as the base of the little ring here, I think that's exile walls, just because it looks like that red felt. I've seen some use just a single oversized Chua pillow. Some will use a white surface, so they can get away with using like the base of the gear trophy, which is a nice white bit. I think this one wanted to go a little bit darker. Maybe it's to cover up the blood stains. I don't know. If you're wanting some blood stains, the ice splotch is a good deal. Or even using like sunken bits of the Chua pillow to add some realism to it, I guess. Stools, of course, are just regular stools. The tables here, those are the brown round tables that everybody gets with their little starter kit, I think. I don't know what they've inset underneath it. I want to say it's I really don't know. But the table itself is just sunk down, so you don't see the legs. It's got those really long table legs. They just sunk it down. It's a big fave way of using the tables. I don't know if they've just inset it on a barrel or something. I know what it looks like, but I'm not really sure. Notice they're using the tires for some of the seats, and they've actually insert some of them with the red cushions so that you can actually pretend as if the tire is a functioning chair. And notice that it does act a little quirky because my leg is like actually sitting inside it. But I don't know if every character sits like that, so it might suit some of them better than others. You've got these barrels here. These are the metal and wood barrels, or wood and metal barrels. If you're looking for an all wooden barrel, I think there's a training post that has a barrel in it, but it's got like arrows and stuff sticking out of it. You might be able to turn it so that maybe not all of them are showing. Others use uh, the feeding troughs and put them end to end, and it kind of looks like a wooden barrel. There's a couple of other tricks. I think the vintage beer mug is another one. They'll just turn it so you don't see the handle, especially if it's like butted up against the wall here. You can kind of push it in and have it look like just the beer mug, and then cap it with something to make it look like it's sealed off instead of an actual open mug. There's a couple of ways you can get around that if you're looking for a specific type of barrel. I like how they've used those Chua stools, but they've just added the tire on top. Again, it looks a little funky with some of the way the posturing is done, but it shows you that sometimes you can change how a seat looks. The problem I have with them is usually maybe I set them in too far into the ground, or I size them funny, and it like takes away the functionality. It still lights up as if you can use it, but you can't, so I don't know what determines the specifics of whether or not it allows you to do it or not. I think it's just another kind of those trial and error deals. The cabinetry here is just 2 bars, the regular bars sandwiched together to make a single one. And then they've added in a few little doodads like the sink, and here you have the grating for the little beer tap. I think it's a combo of travel posters, that grated shelf, and then a piece of glass on top. And then of course these are the bars with the bottles in it, and they've added their own little bits like the beer cans and the bowls and such, just to change it up, to personalize it. I've done the same with like bookshelves and stuff. Thrown in a few odd and end pieces or covered up some of the books with like little knickknacks just to kind of personalize it. Let's go this way. Here's the bathrooms. Using the metal dividers. A lot of people like to use these for Asian bills because it kind of looks like those rice paper door thingies. A lot of them like to use it for city builds because it looks like lit up windows, like if they're making a lot of skyscrapers and stuff, or other types of big buildings. Here we have the med area for the fighters that have been injured. Pretty straightforward here, just some regular medical equipment, nothing fancy. If you're wondering about the curtain here, that's the wolf banner. Others like to use the laundry lines with the white sheet, and they'll just insert the rest of it into the walls and just have the sheet there. There's also the Skeech banner. The Merg banner is probably a big fave because, like the Wolf banner here, it's just got that single bar up top, but it's straight up and you can use it. There's also a couple of banners with poles that the poles aren't like directly behind the banner, that it's off to the side or something, and those are good to use as well. Another idea is those chains that are being used for the ring ropes. You can use multiples of them, make a little beaded curtain, that kind of deal. That's usually used more for like the hippie rooms or herbalist shop where they got, you know, or like some of the red light district stuff where they've got some private rooms. Here's the Merg Banner one here. I think it's called Merg Banner, but it's like just a single little post up top, I think. I don't remember where this comes from, the Red Moon goodie, but I think the most significant thing here is the bulletin board, which is just Oran floor with the pillars, and then this shelving little display. Mostly 2x4s from what I can tell. Lots and lots 2x4s. Same way for the shelving part. And then for the cabinet doors, it looks like they're using the the ends of bottles, possibly. You can use any number of things for handles. You actually can use the handles from the mugs. There's also bottle tops, Tua cups. There's just like a variety. There's handles from like the suitcase, the magnetized containers. There's just like tons of different things you could use for the handles. Some people just use other pieces of wood or the pillars or whatever. I think it just depends on the aesthetics. Usually I just say rule of thumb, if you're building a cabinet and you're adding bracketry or handles or whatever, have them have a good contrast. This is good because it's dark enough where it shows up against the brown wood, even though it's kind of darkly lit in here. But I've seen some where they'll use like a white on white kind of thing, and it kind of, you have to really like look closely to notice that there's handles or whatever there. So just use contrast wisely, and it'll show up better. Like the cabinets here, the staircase landings, and then they're using the handles. And I have no idea what that is specifically. It looks like a bottle top or bottom or something, but it could be anything. The little candle holders, I think they are possibly the base of a like goblet or something, but I'm not for positive on that. Like maybe the wine glass and they just got it inset so you don't see the wine part underneath, that kind of thing. I honestly cannot say for certain. Okay, off this part. And I think they built the stairs. I don't know if this is an actual staircase and then they've covered it up underneath, or if they built it themselves. Really hard to tell. I like how they've added this little treatment to the walls just to kind of split it up. They could have left it off, but it's a nice touch. Just, I don't know, add something extra. But you can see here's the balcony up above where you can spectate the fight from up here. Presumably these are maybe some VIP rooms or the sleeping quarters of the fighters or the owner of the bar, who knows. It's just some faux doors. It's basically just the pillars around the trim, those same handles that they're using in the cabinetry down below. And the wood part, that's the back of the tree portrait, I think. We've talked about it. I think we talked about it last week, in fact, um, that a lot of people like to use it for cabinetry. Some have used it for tables and chairs and things like that. A fantastic looking texturing, so people like to use it. It's the same way with the excuse me, the bottom of the cellar entrance. It's got that really awesome looking white and gray and black striations. A lot of fantastic builds using that as some like marble kind of look for floors and kitchen cabinets and stuff. It's again, there's a debate as to where, you know, if it's good to use faux doors or faux buildings. I think if you don't overdo it uh, or use it wisely, it can lend itself well to giving a hint that there's more to the structure than actually is there, but it just doesn't allow the visitor to go off into that direction. Again, another faux outlet here. Maybe they just couldn't think of a use for this little narrow space and just decided, well, it'll be a hallway to another room, presumably. Okay, so let's go in this one first. And this looks to be like where they get ready for their challenges. You've got the little locker room here. Possibly where they would come and write down who's challenging who for the night, who got injured. I don't know, make their bets or something. I have no idea. But this is, I think it's the landscape portrait. And then they've added, I suspect, a travel poster and set it inside so that it looks black. It could be something else, but I think that's probably close. And made it into like a chalkboard. Now, if you're looking for something that looks like chalk writing, the edges of maybe like the ice blocks could be used, or anything else that's kind of white. My suggestion would be use the folded side of the striped kitchen towel. Even when it's kind of sized down, it still shows up at a decent distance. The ice blocks, they're kind of inconsistent, depending, I guess, on what one you choose to use. The smaller it goes, the more likely it's going to disappear, because like there was a lot of people that wanted to use the actual blocks, ice blocks, as like sugar cubes. But when you shrink it down to like really tiny to make it look like it's sugar cubes, it's you don't see it. You have to like practically zoom in with your face right there at the little bowl or whatever to see it. So it's kind of disappointing in that way. But if you're looking for something for writing, I think the folded edge of the striped towel works best. That's what I used for my bakery, to like make it look like written up menus and stuff, and it worked really nice. Again, for a piece of chalk, you could use like a little bit bigger size of the folded edge to make it look like a piece of chalk laying out. Be easy enough to add a tray here. And if you're looking for an eraser, probably just like a 2x4, metal edge 2x4 with maybe a color shift of 1 into black and white to make it look like the eraser part, the black part of it, I guess. I don't know. I'm sure you guys could come up with something clever. The desk here for the computer, again, I think it's just a travel poster for the backing. And then this part here is, it's not really called a television, I don't think. But it's like the television, and they just insert it just enough where you just see the holographed part that sticks out from it. It's like the TV, and then like just outside of it is the image that appears on the TV screen. It's not really like directly on the screen, which is handy for stuff like this, but it's just kind of weird. But it's the stationary one. There are two different TVs. There's the one that's kind of floats, and I think it actually moves, and then the other one where it's stationary, and that's what this one is. The little green dot, that's from the detonators. They just push it in so you just see the dot. If you're looking for other little knobs and controls, there's quite a few items that have lit up parts that will lend itself well. If you're looking for something super easy to get a hold of, the detonator is one. Here's another part of the detonator with the little blinky part. This is a fave for signs. The what's it called? The emergency warning system. It's the cage with the canary, the dead canary in the bottom. I use that a lot for the red buttons on it or the blue lights on the bottom of it. It's also nice. Now, it's hard to get a good look at their little computer brain here, but they went through some effort to make it look like an actual like hard drive thingy. I'm not sure what all parts they're using here. It looks like the detonators again to give it the green glow, and then the red moon vents. Again, the detonator here, and I think this front part is the top side of the garage themed coffee table. Looks pretty realistic as far as looking like an actual computer part. Notice they didn't go through the trouble of adding a mouse. Some do, some don't. Some add all of the cables and stuff. This one just left it as the keyboard there. Again, the netting here is from the Marauder net shelf. But again, if you're looking for something that's not like bowed and bent like this, the bits from the Arctera area, the Osun grading would work well. Now, this does lend itself good for having that little bent part so that they like can shove weapons or whatever, you know, maybe a ticket booth or something. That does work out nicely for that, so it's something to consider. This little window here again is, I think it's a spaceship. I think it's a window. A lot of people like to use it for doors. A faux door. We come around on this side, we can get into the smaller room. Here you can see that Osun weapon rack I mentioned earlier. Notice they fashioned their own little bazooka gun thingy. It's just, I think it's the little zap gun that actually is part of the game, but I think the nozzle of it is skinnier, but they've tacked on a couple of beer cans, recolored it a little bit, and so now you have this jazzed out little gun thing. Yeah, I think it's this, the zap gun, and they just decked it out a little bit different on that one in particular. A lot of people do that with the swords and everything. They'll take a regular sword and then they'll tack things on it to like really dress it up, especially the handles and stuff. Here's the detonator, what it looks like just standalone, the little blinky light here and the glowing button, and that's what they used for the computer parts and the TV, I mean the screen and everything. So there you go. I think that's it. These parts here, I think those are spaceship engine bits. I don't know if those are supposed to be like where the spotlights are or what. But a great place for a role-play troupe again to come and have a little fight night. Place a few bets, have a little bit of extra fun. That kind of thing. So there you go. Just a couple of examples of different approaches to plot building. Again, uh, if you can imagine it, and if you give yourself the time to accumulate the items that you need and to play around with putting things together in a mishmash, you can create some really interesting stuff. Just about anything goes, from sewer type builds to forests, fairy forests, or desert scenes, and it doesn't even have to be, strictly completely out of your imagination. If you're wanting to replicate something, I've seen some people rebuild actual landmarks like Eiffel Towers and Incan uh, uh, pyramids and stuff, Egyptian things, and things from movies and books and television shows, other games. There's just, again, it's just endless what you can make. So I hope that these little peeks into these particular builds helps give you some ideas for certain things. Again, even if you're not looking to make something entirely like this, maybe there's a part here or there that, like the faux door, maybe that faux door looks like something that would fit in nicely with yours, and you can tweak it a little bit and make it your own. But the general idea is something to walk away with and be able to use. Or maybe you're looking for um, uh, a way to make a cabinet like we saw in the one office. Just little ideas like that you can walk away with, even if you're not interested in anything else that's on this particular plot. You can always find something that lends itself to another idea for your own projects. So I think that's it for today, guys. I hope you had fun. Um, Again, thank you to all builders who leave their properties open to the public and are willing to share their wonderful works with us. We appreciate it and hope that you guys continue to create bigger and better things so that we can enjoy and be inspired by them. Thank you to those that continue to support my little channel here via their tweets and retweets and follows, and those who take it upon themselves to host my channel when it comes on. I greatly appreciate it. I hope that we can continue to show others homes and let you guys enjoy it. In the meantime, good luck with your projects, and don't forget to enjoy this month's Starfall event and the rest of this week's festivities, including the double XP explosion stuff. And I guess I will see you guys next week. Bye bye.